Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
At the Boise Art Museum right now, there are almost 1,000 hand-painted plates on display. The blue and white dishes show detailed illustrations of comfort foods like spaghetti and pancakes and hamburgers, the last meals of death row inmates.
You have to wonder what kind of life they lived for that to be the case.
I'm Julie Luqueta. Find my report and pictures of the Last Supper exhibit at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. More Idaho Matters right now. Award-winning journalist and author Peggy Townsend is back with her latest novel, The Botanist Assistant. Now, this new book follows Margaret Finch. She's a research assistant, and she gets pulled into investigating a suspicious death in her botanical lab. This book is smart, it's funny, character-driven, and it mixes science, mystery, and a little bit of humor. And we are lucky enough to have Peggy joining us today to talk more. Peggy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about the main character, Margaret, because she is a bit of a unique protagonist. She's meticulous. I mean, she's a little bit quirky. How did she come to life for you?
Well, that's a funny story. Margaret, well, let me start. I interviewed once the author Jane Smiley, and she talked about how she creates her scenes. And she says she takes something from real life and then magnifies it to get the reaction and emotion she wants. So I have to confess, I'm one of those people who make long to-do lists and like to organize things. So I just took that and kind of blew it up for Margaret to the point where it would be super annoying, not just a little annoying like I am.
So what drew you to set a mystery inside a botanical lab? I mean, rather than, like a lot of them, it's in a small town or there's a police setting.
Well, I think, first off, I've interviewed a number of scientists during my journalism career, and I just love scientists. They're smart, they're curious, they're tenacious, they're honest, and I thought, hey, that's the same characteristics of a good detective. And so I thought I wanted to set it in a college campus, and I'm super interested in plants and their defense mechanisms and how they can be both toxic and a tonic. And so I decided to set it in a botany lab.
And, the plants and the labs and a greenhouse, I mean, you really made them feel like characters. So did you, draw from any real botanical science in the research you did about this book?
Yes, I drew a lot from a number of places. I've been in labs. Two, my sister is a scientist, and she's told me some of her stories about being in a lab. And I read this wonderful book called The Light Eaters, and it's about the study of how plants react with their environments. And so it was just super interesting and something that I wanted to explore. So I read on about books about poisonings and murders. And of course, Agatha Christie was famous for poisoning her murder victims. Mm-hmm. So that's how that came to be.
And I am also curious about a little bit about how Margaret solves the mystery. So I don't want to give any spoilers away, but a lot of her traits that we've talked about actually helped her. Was that intentional in your writing? Really, what some people might perceive as weakness actually is strengths in helping her figure out this mystery.
That is such a good question. Yeah, I really think that often what people see as our weaknesses can be our strengths. And for me, Margaret was one of those people who were made fun of and ignored and underestimated because they saw her as quirky. But her quirks, which were born of tragedy, if you read the book, you'll find that out, actually were her strengths. And it's not until she started investigating this murder that she realized that what she did and how she lived and what people made fun of her for uh, were actually great skills to have, the ability to notice details, being very fastidious, being not wanting to let things go, like being very stubborn. And scientists have to be tenacious because a lot of times the experiments fail and then it fails again and then it fails again. And so I just think it's very important for people to understand that what people might see as weaknesses can be turned into strengths.
Okay, so without giving too much away, I want to talk a little bit about how you approached planting clues and red herrings in this new book. So did Margaret's viewpoint shape how the mystery unfolds as well? But can we start with when you go into writing this book in particular? I mean, do you already know what the clues are going to be, what the red herrings are going to be, or did Margaret, kind of as she came to life for you, start to help you figure that out?
A little bit of both, but mostly I am very meticulous about plotting, a little bit like Margaret, I guess. I hate books where the ending is kind of like ta-da, and you're like, where was the foundation for this ending? So before I came up with Margaret, she began to grow in my head. Meanwhile, I was plotting very meticulously how this mystery was going to fall out. I knew who the killer was going to be, but I needed to put enough pointers, I guess, things that pointed toward the perpetrator without giving away who that person might be. And it was very deliberate. So, and part of that deliberation was having red herrings come up. And so the red herrings were very intentional and very fun to write, actually.
Did Margaret surprise you at all as you were writing her? Because you said, you're very meticulous about writing the outline and, in your approach. So was there anything as you were writing Margaret that was all of a sudden like, oh, I didn't know she would be like this?
Oh, 100%. That's another really great question. Yes, I didn't realize there was a softer side to Margaret until I started writing her. I was writing, she started out kind of, grumpy and very hard to get along with and like honest to a fault, socially awkward. But then as I'm writing her, I'm finding this soft side. And I don't want to give too much away, but there's something that happens at her little cottage up on the hill. And all of a sudden, Margaret's softness, need for love, and a bit of her loneliness is revealed. So she definitely changed, and she talked to me while I was writing a few of those scenes.
You've written both journalism and fiction. I am curious about how your journalistic experience influences your approach to storytelling. I mean, I'm sure it influences research and even your meticulousness, right? But how else has it impacted how you write a story?
Well, definitely the plotting and the research, but writers are like magpies. We steal things here and there to create our stories. And as a journalist, I met so many interesting people, different people, people I admired, people that I thought were really terrible. And so as a writer, I take little bits and pieces of those things and I incorporate them into my writing. I'm sorry, as a journalist, I take those things and incorporate them into my storytelling, which I think kind of brings the book to life. So, yeah, for my years of meeting people, interviewing people, asking deep and sometimes really personal questions, I have created characters that I hope resonate with people.
So finally, before I let you go, what are you hoping that readers walk away with after they read The Botanist Assistant, but not just about the book itself, but really, Margaret and Margaret's journey through this book?
Yeah, the thing that I hope that they walk away from is this idea that no matter what happens in our lives, no matter how lonely we may seem, no matter how much hard things we have, no matter how much we are isolated or ignored, that we all have the capacity for love.
Well, Peggy, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. We've been speaking with award-winning journalist and author Peggy Townsend about her latest novel, The Botanist Assistant. It is out now. This is the Idaho Matters podcast. I'm Gemma Gaudette.
How does AI even work? Where does creativity come from? What's the secret to living longer? TED Radio Hour explores the biggest questions with some of the world's greatest thinkers. They will surprise, challenge, and even change you. Listen to NPR's TED Radio Hour wherever you get your podcasts.